scenario. But being a human, what we preferred is we had like one-to-one interaction when we go to the classrooms. Being in the academic scenario, being in the industry, obviously they go to office even though they were able to perform from work from home. But what this pandemic taught us is you be safe at your home and all the data, let it work. Okay, so you have to work based on your data and the requirement. Okay, so what actually needs the data? Let it be big data, let it be deep data, let it be small data, or even a data crumbs. It's completely fine. I'm completely fine with whatever kind of data I'm going to receive. But what actually I am intended to, how am I utilizing, where am I utilizing, and where came all this kind of transitions? So obviously that should be a scratch. And we do have the industrial buzzwords like cloud computing, big data analytics, data science. See, say for example, across the globe, the most fantasized job is a data science job. So, why it is fantasized so? The reason behind it is there is a difficulty in the transition of a real time data to the data that we inculcate as a computational formula. Inculcate as a computational formula. Okay, so our objective of session today is medicine in a data driven scenario. What is medicine is data driven? How can I say so? Medicine is completely like the three major things that we concentrate when our kids see. We are all like now a professor, so obviously we kids are we come across our neighboring kids in the neighboring homes. So all those people, what they mainly focus on, three important things: physics, chemistry, and biology. So, which is the most important one that carries out, like which we relate to? Okay, this I have studied in my 12th standard. So, obviously, it is nothing but your biology stuffs. Physics, if we recall, like what is the velocity of a light, obviously, we tend to think, okay, I have to relate. Whereas, this being a day to day inculcation as a part of our life, we tend to remember, we tend to recall, and it has a huge impact on our day in and day out of life. Okay, so why should I say medicine as a data driven? The reason behind this, we had three major revolutions in the past 20 years. To begin with, this medicinal revolution started in 1962. So this is the first IBM and Akron tied up children's hospital where they converted the CT scan into the Fortran evaluated card. They converted the CT scan into the Fortran evaluated card. So why such kind of initiative? Why do they need this kind of initiative? Because on our transcriptions, whenever a discharge summary or a prescription is being given as a transcriptions, obviously there is a difficulty to understand from one medical professional to the another medical professional. So what happened? There was a need for the computational persons, as well as the compute, that is the computer society personals, as well as the physicist, the person who's having a medical expertise, all these people to get into this transformation called as bioinformatics. There was nowadays we do have biointelligence, bioinformat, all these fascinating words we are into. But the basic logic behind that evoluted with the bioinformatics. So the first revolution of understanding the genome of an organism as well as a human started by 1980s, and finally they were able to identify the genome of the influenza bacteria. Everybody knows influenza bacteria were identified on the year of 1995. So when they identified, they were surprisingly shocked. Why? Because there were $2 million of ladders of genome were available in one single bacteria. So to demoralize that particular structure, we need to have so many computational models to understand and to transcript to various societies to make it like a a human consuming, a day-to-day person have to consume. So how I should understand to transcript from a completely medically data to the data which will be available as public, where they will be able to map all the required features, they'll customize all these things. This transition was the first major revolution in your last 20 years. So why should I basically need it? So when there is a disease, when I go to a doctor, so when I go to a doctor and say I have this particular, I'm suffering from this particular illness. What generally doctors, medical professional gives you with a set of tablets. They'll advise you to come for a follow up in next in 3 to 5 days. So what does it mean? They assume, they gather the data, they refine your data, whatever has been inferred from the patient, then they suggest you with set of prescriptions. They also check you with your allergic stuffs and they give you with a set of prescriptions. So this is what is the basic analogy that is happening. But when we transform from a regular set of data, when we identify the sequence of your DNA, when we were able to sequence your genomic structure, we will be able to suggest a perfect therapy for the particular patient. Okay. So there were lot of struggles. There was lot of struggles across the globe to identify the genomic structure. So what happened is at the start of the to identify the genomic structure by 1990, top 20 institutions were combined together to form a consortium by 1990. So these were the reason behind the major revolutions. So now they were able to sequence the human genomes in the rate of 50,000 to 75,000 INR. In other words, $1,000. So what actually happened is it was such a big question marks after 15 years of continuous research. This at this very affordable rate, it we have reached attaining sequencing of the human genome just in a day's time. So what actually it's all needed? It all needs a data. It all needs data. So what actually my data is going to be? My data, I will be able to collect the data based on the location graphic, based on the therapeutic, based on your genomic structure, all those things I'll be able to retrieve and I'll be able to map the features. The recent advantage in this data analytics is mapping of your 20,000 genomic structure to just 600 features. Mapping of 20,000 genomic structures to just 600 records. Simple. For example, I do have 20,000 records. I do not want 20,000 factors to influence my patient's health. Whereas I identified my 600 prime factors that will influence my patient's health, and I just need to focus on those parameters. I need not. All this happened. All this evolution just happened by precisional approach. All this happened with the precisional approach. So this led, and we had post pandemic many, almost 90% of the hospitals are ready to cater their potential target of patients on an virtual media. So how do they diagnose? They get the information from the patient. They give a preliminary input of how to monitor themselves. Then, if they are able to give a solution at the first level rate, obviously they'll be able to provide you with the solutional stuffs. And many hospitals are get transforming into the electronic health record. Okay, what finally am I going to have do with all this data? How actually, why should I combine my data analytics in the biomedical application? Anyway, the doctor is going to collect the data, who's going to have it as an electronic health record. That's all. No, it is not the way as we think. We are going to collect the data, the patient's data. We have to pseudonymize. in the technical thing, we have to pseudonymize the patient's data. And while pseudonymizing the data, we have to identify whether I'm going to crypt my complete data to handle the patient's privacy, or I need to identify the particular features that only have to be crypted, and I have to share certain data to make up publicly medical data. So these were the analysis that has to be done when I discuss with the adoption of my electronic health records. And most importantly, that has been lagging across the globe is, even though many and many hospitals are digitalized, we do not have a common cloud platform or a common scenario where we one patient's data will be able to be accessed by other patients data, other hospital, with a proper security purpose. So this transition or this sharing of data is very lagging across the globe, and people have started working on improving the privacy and the accessibility of your electronic health records. So that is the reason, that is the basic reason, the transition of the human record in terms of paper forms is getting delayed. Not delayed, it is getting like, it takes its own time to be converted into an electronic health records. So where and all I'm going to apply all this? Where and all I'm going to apply all this? What am I going to do with this? Is it will be a dumb data? Definitely not. I'll have a precisional analysis on a particular set of data. After receiving those data, I'll be able to analyze and understand, so what would be the contribution of my data on an application? How am I going to utilize my data? So when I talk about, I have a term called as my data, my data, my data. It is nothing but the patient's data. It is nothing but the patient's data. So when we talk about the patient's data, it mainly deals with the basic, starting with your all your name, age, your illness, every single thing. I need not to hide that I have a fever. So that particular data need not to be crypted. Whereas I have a severe illness. I have a severe illness. That particular data have to be crypted. That need not to be shared to everybody. So you have to have a very deep analysis over the data that has been inculcated and transitive as a electronic medical data. So these are the evolutionary challenges that we transform our data in a biomedical scenario. Okay, what would these are the challenges? What would be the advantages? When we talk about the challenges, we will not work on a challenge without a benefit. Being a human, obviously. So, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle it? So now, in terms of cloud, in terms of database, multiple servers, what I do store the patient's data as electronic medical records. I do store the patient's data as electronic medical records, and I group it based on the geographical, based on their what to say, based on their age, based on their disease, based on their uh, genomic structures, based on their blood groups. So different and different types of grouping of data is possible, where if there is an illness and we need some other patient's help also, we will be able to be in touch with the patients in a very quicker manner. So obviously, all the sessionals, all this privacy sessional data will be helpful, will be very useful for us to create a proper electronic medical records. So this is one important this is one important thrust area where we do have your data analytics in your biomedical thing, starting with the analysis of the patients based on their demographics and their diagnosis and the lab report. Everywhere Nowadays, it has been digitalized. I'll have it as a PDF or my image will be scanned as a PDF. Okay, fine. On a longer run, I want to convert those data into a digitally transformative data where I'll be able to perform some or other analysis, and at end of the day I will be able to visualize the results. I'll be able to diagnose their inference. So all this inference matters basically. So how do I do that? I need to have the patient's data. I'll be classifying the data based on their demographics. Then I or if whatever may be my patient data, it will be obviously a irregular data. What is it? Actually, my irregular data may be missing with certain parameters. Maybe the patient may not be able to share certain complete demographical data about he or she. So all this will lead to the irregular data or an incomplete data. So the next biggest challenge is unstructured physician notes. So it's very difficult for any normal person to read out a medical professionals handwriting. It is not, we just cannot complain on them. They just write on their own way that they have learned. So as a computational professional, the biggest challenge is transform that particular data into the data that will be able to have to solve our transformative challenge. Then imaging. So how do I extract all this numerical data from my BMPs? So from my BMPs, how do I going to categorize? How am I going to communicate? So all this matters. So, excuse me, uh, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
And the physician data, it is our thrust area. How to transform my all these challenges into a transformative data, which will be where I'll be able to solve all my uncertainties and very be precisive on what I'm going to suggest to the patient. Let it be therapeutic, let it be a drug, whatever may be. So it has to be a personalized evidence. And we do have lots and lots of platforms that is suggesting with your personalized evidence. So what is the first thing that we actually do when we get a fever or some rare symptomatic stuff? So immediately what we do, we type it in a Google and we search for. The Google will say, if you have a fever, yes, of course. So these are all are based on the dumpty data itself. It gives you with a lot of suggestions, which is 70% true and 30% false rate. And depending on your demographical data that you have fed in. So basic challenges lies in a medical data is in a data. They, why? Because the population of our country increases. It may be good or bad depending on the person that you interact with. So as my patient population grows, my data improves, my data increases, the amount of data increases. So obviously my storage structure increases, the requirement increases, the management structure increases. All this matters. So the basic challenge in a healthcare industry lies in the data. Okay, as we discussed, we have a patient. When he meets a medical professional, he or she explains about the symptoms. Based on the symptomatic, the clinician, that is the medical professional doctor, suggests him or her with a medicine, with a set of tablets, with a set of therapy, that you do this. Let me know after the results. Okay, if he or she gets allergic, if he or she goes the other way behind the personalized, if it is not being personalized, so obviously what happens? He or she is being a trialed patient. He or she is being a trialed patient if he or she does not respond. The fact is, 30% of the response and 70% does not respond. So what happens? The next stage will be the antibiotic prescription, a heavy dose prescription. So for this is the reason we have to focus on your personalized or a precisional approach towards your medicine. So that is the reason behind the data analytics over the genomic structure, data analytics over the structural evaluation that is evidently available. Okay. So this is yet another challenge. Okay. So how can I exploit my medical data? Okay, fine. As you always say, like I have 10 prescriptions. Say, for example, those are having a early kids. They'll have a continuous from third day, 20th day, continuous vaccination calendar. Obviously, they have a digitalized vaccination calendar. Then post that, now people started having a digitalized health record. Okay, if suddenly there is an emergency, I'm visiting to a nearby hospital, will I be able to access all those? Being a parent, will I be able to recognize the vaccine that has been given to my child? Obviously, on a colloquial language, I'll be able to know it. So the exploitation of my medical record is very, very a tough job. Okay, fine. I'm giving an access to all the hospitals. So is it fine? Not fine. Because if I give the access to all the hospital, then the integrity and accessibility of my patient's data is broken. The trust, the confidentiality that my patient's data, that I have agreed to my patient that his or her data will be complied in line with the security terms is broken. So how do I manage? So how do I exploit? All this matters. So this is the basic reason behind this is yet another challenge in your biomedical data application. So these were the challenges that we have discussed, and few other added on points will be there. So we categorize our challenges into data as well as the task challenges. Okay, so when we consider the data challenges, as we discussed, big data, deep data, small data, data crumbs, whatever may be the type of data, whatever may be the type of data, the challenges lies in the large scale, high dimensionality, semi-structured, distributed, sparse and irregular answer. All these are the different kinds of data stuffs that have to be integrated and transformed to a very good visualized stuff. Then task challenges. Okay, fine. Now I'm able to incorporate whatever the data is. I have transformed my physically acclaimed data into my transformed data. So what is the basic task that I have to deal with? Now I have to analyze, I have to categorize my data into a training evaluated data, precisional data, historic data, critical data. Then I have to, after understanding all these data challenges, then moving on to a taking a task challenges of taking a decision based on my historical data, based on the missing data. So I need to be very, let it be my machine learning algorithm, let it be my deep learning algorithm, any kind of predictive algorithms, let it be. My task challenges, I should be based on my precisive structure, precisive approach. I need to be able to understand what are the critical decisions that could be taken, that should be taken, and what would be my suggestive therapy to the patient. What would be the suggestive therapy to the patient? Okay, so these were the few initial success stories behind the electronic health records when it is implemented. So IBM have an extensive research with a medical institution to handle the real patient data, that is the real time patient data, based on the domain expertise as well as the clinical evaluation. Every single project data will have a group of domain expertise people, that is AML or deep learning, whatever technique they use. Even for an infrastructure management, they utilize the cloud expertise along with the medical professionals. So both these people will work together to resolve into the exploiting your real-time medical patient data. So this is the basic success stories behind all this. Okay. So what I have inferred from my success? What did I get from my success? After putting so much and so much of input? So efficiency of analysis in my treatment improved. The suggestive therapy that has been given by the medical professional obviously improved. Then I was able to model the physical outcome of the particular illness. Illness and wellness were able to be monitored. Then utilization analysis. Okay, this particular person have taken this particular amount of drug and this is the outcome. So on a pool of data, I will be able to infer the overall utilization of my therapy, overall utilization of my drug, overall utilization of my system, that helps me to understand very precisely and inform the and helps the medical professionals to be very specific and personalized to the patient. So all these were the basic advantages of my success stories. So how do I do it? What is the basic structure that is being existing across? So the basic structure that is existing across is I can pull out the patients. I can pull out the patient not only based on the demographic, not only based on the geography, based on the genomic structure, at least 80-70%. I'll rate the similarity. Rating of the similarity happens, then I will group them out, then I will proceed on with the predictive modeling. So a predictive modeling structure has been given. Then when I do not have a proper identification, proper recognition of my data that is being converted, obviously I'll work on with the clustering algorithm. Then I'll understand, okay, the mapping. The once the mapping of the features are done, then I will move on with my process mining. Okay, so why I am very particular about the term process mining, because I have a data, I have transformed my physically written notes, my lab images as a demo, as a data, as a numerical data, alphanumeric data. Now it is my responsibility to identify a process to indulge the transformation of my data into the suggestive visualizing techniques. So, what are the key properties behind it? The key properties behind it is this data are scalable. When I do not use a particular infrastructure, when I do not use a particular process, I can very well scale it depending on my requirement, which in turn is a cost effective. Okay, I'm here to service, so I'm not bothered about the cost effectiveness. Definitely not, wherever, whichever field, let it be education, let it be medicine, what, let it be whatever may be the field that we are into. End of the day, it is business, the business. And in the business, there is two important strategies. One is making money and another one is servicing customers. So this scalability plays a vital role in both the parameters. Then designing of my sparse data. Obviously, when I pull out a particular data, when I'm able to pull out a particular data, I'm able to sparse it. I have to design my sparse, that is the randomly placed data. I have to design a normalized structure which will be able to identify and retrieve those data in a proper structure, which will help me to simulate, which will help me to simulate. Then post that, I have to give my data model for analysis and which will inculcate a training model and a testing model depending on the algorithm I use. And many, say for example, a breast cancer evaluation has been carried out by multiple researchers across the globe by come just based on the same based on the same data but different techniques and evaluating the performance across the globe. So we have to identify which algorithm works better depending on the constraints of the real-time data, depending on every single possibility that is available across the globe. And based on the precision technology, the one important point to be considered is we have to collect the feedback based on the standard template that has been announced by the Indian Clinical Organization. So the feedback from the customer have to be collected, and on every single cycle it has to be refined and developed. Then Visualization analysis of the patient. How do I visualize it? How do I visualize it? So the first box was a how do I perform my analysis? Once the analysis, I have suggested my precision approach to the patients. Based on the precision approach, I have suggested a drug or a therapy to the patient. Now I will be able to pull out the similar kind of patients. Then I will be able to design the outcome. I'll be able to visualize the outcome. Okay, on X date, this particular drug was given, and my patient X were able to respond in this particular days. And on fifth day, this is the status. Seventh day, this is the status. Continuous monitoring will help you to identify your outcome of your entire process. So these are the few dashboard techniques. So why do we need to inculcate all the dashboard techniques? The dashboard techniques is because since we all are comfortably became lazy because of these smart environments, or the other way we could say that we became so dependent on the gadgets that is available. 70% we are connected to the outside world through our gadgets that's available across us. So what actually happens is we want everything to be smart. I do not want to go, I do not want to give an image, take an image, process it, everything. I just want to touch it, I just want to look at the screen, I just want to pop it out. Then I just my demographical details, I get all the results on the go. So we have to evaluate whether the dashboard techniques that have to be inculcated. Then the main what to say the main gap analysis, the research gap that is available is the even the many APIs and GUIs are available across the for the medical transcription system. We may it is not success, it is not 100% success because of the research gap in the data analysis, research gap in the process analysis, gap in my performatric analysis, and gap in my user interface. Whenever we use application, whenever we use a regular GUI, what we look into? We look into the convenience on the interface. We look into the convenience on the interface. How am I able to use the interface without any trouble? How am I able to utilize it? All these were my challenges. Now I'll have a in-depth of my exploratory analysis. Now we had a term machine learning around 15 to 16 years ago. Post that we had deep learning. All these technologies were available, but as the data evolutionized from 20 to 20 million, obviously the need to analyze the data both vertically and horizontally matters. That is, there is a need to analyze the data in terms of machine learning and deep learning. So depending on the algorithm, depending on the data, depending on the constraints that is available, I need to understand how I'm going to explore it and how am I going to process it and how am I going to visually transform those data. So these are the basic suggestions of the patient cohorts. Patient cohorts are nothing but the mapping of my basic alphanumeric data to a diagrammatic system model representations. And we have after coming across a lot of challenges, it is very basic requirement to understand the patient cohorts based on the demographical, based on the geographical, based on the requirement and the illness of the patients. So if I perform, I based on my feedback, I have to rework my analysis. I have to rework my on my analysis. So what happened is we have many and many features and patients. We have an X to the Y consortium, and based on it we map it and we take it the simple what is a machine learning process. We select the mapping features that we find whose regression coefficient is on a higher end, where so I perform a feature selection here. Then moving on to the cohort selection, the basic prime factors that could involve my feature selectional process, then additional analytics. So what are the additional features that could inculcate, that I'll be able to inculcate on performing my analysis and present my visual outcome. I'll be able to give my visual outcome. All these are a basic recycling model again and again. I will optimize my system. I'll keep on optimizing my scalability of my analysis just by redoing it again and again, inclusive of my inclusive of my feedback. So these are the a few cohort visualization. One is phase atlas and another one is solar map. So solar map is a technology like based on the demographical and the geographical. It groups out the set of people and identify the range of illness, and depending on the range of illness, it also demonstrate what therapy would be in that particular range or a combination of therapies. All this will be demonstrated in the solar map, and phase atlas will be grouped, the patients will be grouped based on the demographical, and they'll be mapped together depending on the geographical structures, and again the intensity and the therapy will be mapped and outcome will be visualized. So on the whole, the basic challenge of a biomedical informatics lies in the data. Basic challenge lies in the conversion of the physically available data into the data that will help us, that will enable us to transform them into the visually outcome data. Now, I'll be able to match the patient's demographical as well as the geographical data depending on my customization of my process. My process is nothing but my basic algorithmic structures of any domain. So, basic challenge lies here, and the major pros of my transition lies in my better treatment and more effective care to the patients. The basic challenges lies here with the data and the process. So, and in many project areas, the team up of the medical professionals is not available when there is a computational set of professionals who is available. So, to enhance a better system, both the medical fraternity as well as the computational fraternity, along with the required set of background, have to work together and present the data. Then we have to collaborate across many disciplines. The vitality of application of one field into multiple fields became the necessity of day in and day out. I'm being a computer science engineer. I'm fine. I'm comfortably work in proceeding with C. Then I no longer exist in the system. I 100% no longer exist in the system. I'll become obsolete. So to keep me on trend, to keep me in the society. So, what I have to do? I have to apply the physically learned knowledge into all the disciplines that is possible. That is possible. Every single. So, now the big question among the computational people lies here. Okay, my interest is in A and ML. I do not, does it mean like I'm not ready to work on other? No. Every single domain, not only in computer science, across everywhere, it is an interlinked. Without my data, I'll not be process my algorithm. For my data, I need a cyber security, I need a cloud security. So I need an infrastructure for my data to store. I need an efficient algorithm to process my storage management. Now I need every single thing. So now I need a hardware device where I apply everything. So the main success in 2005 is we had IoT devices which were able to sequence the human genomes hardly in 4 to 5 hours. So we meant it as a revolution. So every single application of a data, every single applications were must be interacted every single way that is possible. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. If there is any discussions, let me know. From the participants, I would like to hear from you.
Okay, any doubt from participant side? I think Gladys ma'am, you have a doubt? Please, you can ask.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Dr. Shellam, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Actually, I have completed 2 more works on brain tumor segmentation, feature selection, and extraction.
Okay.
Now I have one doubt in that your slide scaling for big data, slide number 17.
Yes, ma'am.
That you told that some feature extraction and selection, I think so. And right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Feature selection and cohort selection.
Yes, yes. How many features we can select for getting better accuracy? So far, in my projects, I have extracted more than 52 features
Okay, ma'am.
from medical image processing techniques. So
Okay.
how many features I can select to give an input to the network for getting better accuracy result, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, like in terms of number, the number cannot be defined for any particular cases. If you give me the data, I can very well work on it and tell you what would be the. So, the basic suggestion on this question would be you have to work on the regression coefficient between the independent parameters that you have considered and the dependent factors. And not only you should work on the correlation between your independent and dependent, but also you have to work on the correlation between the independent parameters itself. Say, for example, my weight to height. These are completely two independent parameters, but this have my inflection on my BMI
Okay.
commonly put together. So I need to understand the correlation between the independent factors also. So that is the major part we will be missing. So as a researchers, what we will do is we will establish the correlation between my independent and the dependent directly. But we tend to forget, we'll be able to use your feature factor analysis and multi-discriminant analysis for identifying your correlation, correlation analysis between your independent factors considered. But in
Thank you,
terms
ma'am.
of number, we will not be able to tell because see, I'm not sure about what kind of data you are using, what is the data input given, what algorithm you have given. So this would be my basic suggestion to understand the correlation between the correlation lying in under the independent factors, then establish the correlation between the independent and the dependent factors. Then whichever having the higher R square value, we can extract those, and then we can prepare a model. We can suggest with a heat map. Then based on the heat map, we will be able to identify which has a higher prominent, which has a lower prominent.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.